few blessings, well, not say a few blessings, share a few blessings very briefly to start off our day.
A very pleasant good morning, my dear divine brothers and sisters. Many people have been saying that for the past 2 days and today the third day that we have not included much of spirituality or God in our deliberations. And so this morning we'll attempt to do that. I ask you to join me as quietly as possible. Let us focus our thoughts upon your true self, a being of pure energy, a divine light, a child of God, the Supreme Being, the Almighty Authority, my inherent qualities, my natural nature of peace, of love, of compassion can begin to emerge at this moment. I visualize that supreme energy, the divine light. That supreme energy and divine light is now flowing in this entire auditorium, around us, internally within me, to empower myself, a divine light. And as this supreme energy is amongst us, I begin to experience once again those creative potentials within that we all have gathered to share together for the future of the Caribbean. We visualize that supreme energy, that supreme light, traveling across the regions from where we all have come from, so that with the presence of that supreme energy, there will be protection for our countries, our islands, the region, that unity and harmony will be experienced. And at the end of our deliberations today, we'll feel satisfied that with His guidance, our deliberations are accepted. We seek the protection of that Supreme Being, as He have done in the past, for today's successful sharing. And when we leave this particular conference room and this deliberation here today, we should feel that all our thoughts are for the betterment of myself and my fellow beings. We give thanks to that supreme energy for guiding us, for protecting us, and more so for those who have been engaged in this idea of bringing people together as God's children. We thank you. My dear brothers and sisters, I just want to share one point very briefly, and that is the initiative by the organizers to bring us all together over the past 3 days to deliberate on the future of the Caribbean. And I want to say that each and every one of us, by respecting the sharings of each one, in itself a great thing. Many of us, each one of us, will have thoughts and ideas of how things can happen. What I want to say is that it certainly is going to happen. The question is when. I am almost certain it will happen before the year 2050. Man has been involved in many things that may be destructive due to the misuse or abuse of our God-given talent. But I want to assure you, before 2050, that supreme energy itself will be the instrument with the cooperation of nature to make it all happen. So I want to thank you very much. The blessings of the Almighty to one and all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that blessing as we tackle day 3 of the Future of the Caribbean Forum. Before we get into our keynotes, just some very quick, because there's constant reflection, to reaffirm, the room is nearly full, to reaffirm why we've come here, and some of the expectations that we have to, the ideas, but also the expressions of how we build from this forum. The fact that 400 people have come together from all over the region, the hemisphere, and beyond to focus on concepts of new thinking and new options for taking our region forward is in itself a humongous achievement, and we need to acknowledge that in our midst and give ourselves a big round of applause. The fact that we have had very passionate and engaging discussions from day 1 right through until after 7 last night, and the room remained full, again, a very positive indicator, notwithstanding all of the issues and the individual or organizational angst that was also vented. That this is a forum that the creators or the designers have, with a lot of thought about engaging in discussion and debate. And that while the 3 days of coming together cannot ensure or guarantee the follow-up action, what it does, it puts us all in a position to commit to engaging and facilitating within our institutions, within our bodies, within our communities, to try to find the channels on the main findings of the discussion so that we can move forward. We'll be talking a lot more about that because we're talking about outcomes. So without further ado, and to help bring some of these things home, I'd like to just ask Mr. Richard Blewett, who is the United Nations Resident Coordinator here in Trinidad and Tobago with responsibility for other parts of the region as well, to share some thoughts.
A very good morning, everybody. Good morning. Okay, great. So Brother Harry, actually, to his credit, not only did he, volunteer to give us the prayer, he's also written a 3-pager about his disruptive thoughts for the Caribbean. So he's taken a responsibility to say that it's not looking for someone else to find answers, it's also putting your own ideas on the table. So please continue to do that as a group of people here, and that we should share those ideas and articulate them as we move on a journey together. So I'm going to be very brief. A very good morning. I'm, of course, very pleased to be with a panel with Minister Tawari and Amina Mohammed, Minister Dukaran, and we're very happy to, having been on a journey with you for some time with many other actors, it's a great privilege that we've been able to get so far. I'm going to be very, very brief. Here we are in the wonderful and sometimes complicated Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to talk a bit about the focus of the day. It's about the Caribbean, and it's about its journey moving from survivability to sustainability. The Caribbean, in a way, is a victim of its own success. Its middle-income status is very well deserved, but it still has much to do to tackle deep-rooted challenges, including reasserting its identity, tackling crime, persistent poverty, high corruption rates, which are partly linked to the debt levels that it has, its limited access to affordable energy, the high level of communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases it has. Despite the region having some world breakers, we think of Usain Bolt and many others, it generally lacks world-breaking institutions. The challenge of climate change and the impacts of disasters are obviously very serious. At the same time, there's abundant numbers of success stories and incremental development initiatives that help tackle these difficult challenges. The Caribbean leadership in the world has also been deeply impressive. If we take the Non-Communicable Diseases Summit at the General Assembly 4 years ago, this was an initiative driven from the Caribbean that has made a profound difference to the lives of people affected with NCDs all around the world. And that's Caribbean leadership at its best. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm just going to share, I've been here 2 years, some very practical projects and programs that happen here that make a real difference in tackling the question from survivability to sustainability. There's a very, very effective citizen security project and program run by the government of Trinidad and Tobago in partnership with NGOs funded by the IDB. I'm very pleased in the last few months that we, the UN, have just done a peer review of that project to verify the fact that it's a model that makes a difference. It reduces crime, it increases community resilience. So that's one example. Obviously, Trinidad and Tobago is a world-class oil and gas sector, which is strong, and it also has a privileged manufacturing sector serving the Caribbean. There's a very powerful piece of procurement legislation which has been developed, and it will profoundly reduce corruption and ensure efficiency and value for money when it gets implemented. There are very skilled Tobagonians working in many sectors and as part of global companies servicing the Caribbean and its linkages to other regions. Obviously, Trinidad and Tobago has an amazing carnival and fete season, and it's culturally and commercially very successful. And the commercial and cultural value of pan, soca, chutney soca, and calypso. I want to turn to Aruba. Aruba's another island that I cover. In Aruba, we have the most amazing innovation around the green economy. They are a world leader and a SIDS leader. And the Prime Minister has a very good short statement that he made at the General Assembly last September. He says, I don't just want 5-star hotels, I want 5-star hospitals and 5-star schools. So he wants to make sure that there's a balance in how you make Aruba work. UNDP is also helping and working with a multi-stakeholder engagement in Curaçao and St. Martin's, which are new emerging states within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, to advance national development planning processes and strengthen nation building, which is a very important thing. In Suriname, I cover Suriname as well, you can see very strong economic fundamentals, even with the declining gold and oil prices. And there you have an amazing central banker who comes from the IMF, who makes sure the government maintains fiscal discipline in Suriname in the interests of the people of Suriname. So that's just some examples. The glass is half full. And I think just from my own experience, and I think there are many other islands and experiences in the Caribbean where we need to see the capacities and possibility, not just the constraints. So what more needs to be done? Well, I've been an international development practitioner for 25 years, and I remain convinced through my experience that actually it is a very tough thing to run a country. I've not actually run a country myself, but I've observed others that try and do it. There are always many competing demands, ideas, and needs. And it doesn't matter how small your country is, it's not easy. In fact, the smaller the country, it seems the more complicated it is to run a country. So I just want to highlight a few priorities that I think have emerged over the last couple of days from your deliberations that will come into the discussions today. And that will help us if we can make them come true through existing regional plans, and making those plans get implemented, or through national initiatives, will reinforce action for delivery in the interests of people. The first thing I would like to highlight is community empowerment, investing in and expecting more from your communities. Investing in and expecting more from your communities. The second issue I would highlight is tackling corruption, nepotism, and the lack of accountability and transparency. The Caribbean has to do better at that. It also has to continue the journey of modernizing its education system to include more critical thinking and problem solving. That everybody says it all the time, and definitely you can see some parts of the Caribbean are trying to build that agenda, but it's not consistently done. The third thing I would highlight is greater levels of cross-party leadership towards good lawmaking and good policy making. We can't